Now, God, we turn to hear a word from you, for Lord, without you, I'm overwhelmed at the thought of preaching. Without you, I'm inadequate to deliver something of value to news that is priceless. So, God, I ask that you be ever so gracious unto me. Allow a ray of your light to penetrate the darkness of my understanding. Grant confidence and clarity that utterance may be given unto me, that I might open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, that your people will be edified, your name glorified. Amen. I want to invite your attention to John the 15th chapter. John the 15th chapter, the 9th to the 12th verse, but I'm really going to focus on that 12th verse. John the 15th chapter, the 9th to the 12th verse says, "As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's command and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you." And I won't be before you long at all, but for just a few moments, I want to talk from the subject, teach me how to love. Teach me how to love. You all will remember the song, Teach Me How to Love, which was made famous by Musiq Soulchild. But if I could brag a little bit, it was my childhood friend at the Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church named Corey Williams, whose stage name is Latif, who actually wrote the song. And so we was singing Teach Me How to Love before music ever was. But I want to take a moment as we come into this season of love. I want to take a moment to look at Jesus and see if he gives us some examples of what love looks like. Now, I know somebody saying, Pastor, you don't really need this scripture to teach us how to love, because 1 Corinthians 13 already gave it to us. 1 Corinthians 13, 4 and 8 says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. You know, I like the way that Corinthians says it. I really do. But the problem is that I think we have heard it so much at weddings and at feel-good moments that we tend to only think about love from the position of how it makes us feel. We tend to think about love as a thing that ought to just tickle our fancy. We tend to think about love as a thing that, quite honestly, ought to just always make us smile, and every day ought to be a day in the tulips, and every day ought to be a sunny day. We connect love so much to the touchy, feely, that whenever we find ourselves challenged, we separate it from love. We connect it so much to smiles and, ooh, you sure is cute, and ooh, you look good, and the nighttime is the right time. We connect it so much to those feelings that there may be a portion of strength, there may be a portion of the strength that is found in love that we may be missing out on, because our natural disposition is to reject things that don't make us feel good, to reject things that push us, to reject things that challenge us. Truth of the matter is, I believe when you look at the life of Jesus, he shows us there are times where he demonstrates love, where he demonstrates it in a way that, quite honestly, isn't going to be read at a wedding. He demonstrates it in a way that isn't necessarily going to tickle your fancy, that isn't necessarily going to make you feel good. There's three different ways that I want to look at today to help us understand when Jesus demonstrated love, and how if we would apply the way Jesus demonstrates love to our life, if we would ever apply that to how we communicate, apply that to how we are in relationship with people, if we apply that to our principles, then we would see real significant breakthrough in our lives. Just three things, and I'm going to get up out of your way. The first thing that comes for me is Jesus often demonstrated a love that was committed even through sacrifice. When I put the words love and sacrifice in the same sentence, it doesn't really register for many people. But is there anybody who knows that real love requires a level of sacrifice? Real love requires you to pour out. Real love requires that you be willing to give something up. Real love requires that you be willing to put some of your strength into somebody else's weakness. Do you remember over there in Luke, the 8th chapter, when Jesus is walking through the crowd and they bump up on Jesus, and a woman goes up and she touches Jesus? And if you remember, the disciples start saying things, or Jesus says, "Who touched me?" Here they are in this large crowd, and everybody's bumping up on everybody, and Jesus says, "Who touched me?" The disciples say, "Hold up, Jesus. All these people around here, and a whole bunch of folk touched you." And Jesus said, No, I know the difference between a touch and a bump. I'm not talking about who bumped into me. I'm talking about who touched me, because when they touched me, I felt something go out of me. In other words, the principle what Jesus is showing is that real love says that when you encounter it and when I'm acting it, something leaves from me. There's a part of my strength that gets poured into somebody else. I look at my own life right now, and my grandmother's in California taking a little bit of a break. But when I think about my grandmother and the journey that she's doing right now with my mother, it takes a real kind of sacrifice. Real kind of sacrifice to be at your daughter's beck and call. It takes a real kind of sacrifice to make sure your daughter's doing all right. It takes a real kind of sacrifice to be in the heyday of your life and then go back into taking care of somebody. I look at the way I'm pouring into my mother's life. Real love says that you've got to pour in, and it's going to make you weak at times. It's going to take out from you at times. I know I'm not just talking about relationships. Truth of the matter is, you don't mind pouring out when I'm talking about your spouse. You don't mind pouring out when I'm talking about somebody you like. But the truth of the matter is, real love says that I love you enough to admit that even though I don't necessarily want to do this in this season, even though I don't necessarily want to go down this road, I have to accept that part of loving you means that every now and then I've got to be willing to put down a part of me. Every now and then I've got to be willing to put down some of my ambitions and some of my desires and be willing to do it for you. If you really love the community, it means every now and then you're going to take a mindset that is not individualistic. If you really love your family, it means every now and then you're going to not worry about how it makes you feel. Every now and then you're going to fix the argument, even if it means you got to humble yourself. If you really love relationship, if you really love life, then it means you got to understand that it requires that you be willing to pour something out, that you be willing to let something go without the expectation of getting it back. Far too many of us are willing to put out as long as we know it's coming back. Far too many of us, when I think about even our giving at times, there are times when we only give with the expectation that we get back, press down, shake it together, run it over. Truth of the matter is, you got to understand, sometimes real love requires a sacrifice that says, this one you ain't getting back. That time you're not getting back. That situation you're not getting back. Truth of the matter is, it may not come back to you the way you put out. You put out a financial blessing and you're expecting a financial blessing back when it may not necessarily be a financial blessing coming back to you. It may be healing coming back to you. It may be opportunity coming back to you. It may be relationships coming back to you. And now and then, real love says you've got to be willing to sacrifice. I know I'm preaching right because when you look at Jesus' his whole life was sacrifice. He who is eternal, he who is God, he who has all power, chooses to limit himself and put on the limitations of manhood, chooses to empty himself of his power and come to earth. He sacrificed being God in order to do for you, in order to save you, in order to save your life, in order that you can go deeper in him. He poured out of his own godliness, took on the limitations of flesh, came to earth and sinned in no way, showed you how to live a life that is pleasing to God, showed you how to deal with every aspect of life. I could have stayed in heaven, but I was willing to sacrifice for you. When Jesus demonstrates love, it shows a commitment even through sacrifice. But this is the one you might not shout with me on. Because when Jesus demonstrates love, oftentimes he demonstrated a love that was candid. Think about how many times in the Bible Jesus said something that made your mouth drop. Think about how many times in the Bible Jesus said something that made you go, really, Jesus? You remember over there when the man is at the pool of Bethesda? You remember over there, it's over in Luke, the 8th chapter. Remember, every day an angel would come down, and an angel would stir up the waters, and there was a man who had been laying there a significant amount of time, and Jesus looks at him and says the way it worked is the angel would come down and stir the waters, and whenever the angel came down and stirred the waters, the first person to get in would be the person that would be healed. This man had been laying there for a whole long amount of years. I can't remember the amount of years. That's why I ain't saying it out loud, because somebody's going to say, I don't know my Bible, so I'm just going to say he was laying there for a really long time. He was laying there for a long time, and Jesus shows up one day. And Jesus basically says to him, do you want to be healed? You've been laying here so long that at some point you ought to have been the first person in the water. Really, Jesus? That's how you coming? You remember over there when the woman asked Jesus to give her some of the crumbs that fall from the master's table, and Jesus says, it's not right for me to give the children's meat to dogs. Really, Jesus? Jesus had a sense of candor that says, listen, I'm going to be sincere enough in what I'm saying to not sugarcoat the truth for you. I'm not going to sugarcoat this to protect your ego. Jesus oftentimes would say it like it is and then tell you, go and sin no more. Jesus oftentimes would say, yo, do you want to be healed? Do you want to go to the next level? Do you want to receive? The truth of the matter is it ain't hard. It ain't hard. All you got to do is choose me. All you got to do is do it the right way. All you got to do is follow the directions that I gave you. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you get to a place where you stop separating love from candor. Because far too many times, if we don't like the way it's said, we miss out on the blessing of what was said. And the truth of the matter is, in this selfish culture that we have, we tend to make candor mean it's not polite. And the truth of the matter is, just because something is candid doesn't mean it's not polite. I can say truth to you without being disrespectful. The problem is, we have turned disrespect into anything that we don't like the way it sounds. Don't be disrespecting me. Clean up your room. Don't be disrespecting me. Clean up your life. Don't be disrespecting me. You do know it's not good to be hooked on whatever it is you hooked on. Oh, you're just disrespectful. It's not disrespectful to speak truth to you. It's not disrespectful to speak truth to you and to actually think that through speaking truth to you and partnering with you and being in relationship with you that it will actually help you change. I'm trying to save you in your relationship. It's not disrespectful for someone you love to push you to new levels. It's not disrespectful for someone you love to call you out on your mess. It's not disrespectful. Are you with me? Sometimes I got to be truthful, and truth of the matter is all the time I ought to be truthful, and I ought to be sincere in the way that I'm saying it. And here's the deal. We ought to have relationship enough that it should not just be a relationship when you like what I'm saying or when you like what I'm doing. If we really in this thing, and if you really love me, real love goes past being polite. Real love goes past holding back in order to stay comfortable. Real love says, listen, I'm going to say it. I'm not saying it to hurt you. I'm not saying it to judge you. I'm not saying it to tear you down. I'm just saying it because I love you enough to tell you this ain't supposed to be where you are. This ain't what you're supposed to be doing. You are bigger than this. You are better than this. You have everything you need to be who God has called you to be. It is foolish of you to stay in sick situations. It is foolish of you to keep allowing yourself to be torn down. It is foolish of you to stay in the same place over and over and over again. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to judge you. I love you enough to try to pull you out of the hell that you are in. If I didn't love you, I let you stay in it. If I didn't love you, I talk about you while you're in it. If I didn't love you, I talk to everybody else about it. But I love you enough to come to you and tell you exactly what it is that will help you be better. When Jesus demonstrates love, it often was candid, but this is the one I'm going to need your help with, because this one requires something even from me. Oftentimes when Jesus demonstrated love, he demonstrated it through courageousness. Real love ain't afraid. Real love speaks truth to power. And the truth of the matter is, you have to be courageous enough to show your love. Because oftentimes when you really dig in, when you really think about it, oftentimes what we're doing is we hold back our love, we hold back our challenge, we hold back our reproof, we hold it all back out of fear of how the dynamics will change. Or out of fear that it takes a different approach from the culture. When you think about Jesus' story, you know, Jesus was one who literally came and challenged the culture of the time. Jesus was one who literally came and challenged the legalities of the time. All right, let me be courageous. Let me go on and get in trouble. A couple of folk, Terrell knows this, a couple of folk have come to me and asked me my position on recreational marijuana. They've come to me and they asked me my position on it. As a matter of fact, even here in the city of Camden, I had the opportunity to sit on a committee that looks at what it would look like to bring recreational marijuana business-wise into the city of Camden. I had the opportunity to be on the committee. And I got to be honest with y'all. I sat there in one meeting, and then I told them, this ain't the committee for me. I told them, pick another committee for me, because this one ain't the committee for me. Now listen. God does not love you any less if you choose to smoke marijuana. Your pastor does not love you any less if you choose to smoke marijuana. But I ain't gonna stand here and be scared to tell you that it's probably not the wisest thing to get your life hooked on marijuana. I ain't gonna stand here and be scared to tell you that yes, people do get addicted to it. I'm not gonna stand here and be scared to tell you that when you start before the age of 18 that you're likely to be addicted 1 in 6. I'm not afraid to tell you that there are people who lose some of their IQ by as many as 8 points if you use it regularly. I'm not afraid to tell you that it actually can increase anxiety, depression, and have issues on mental health. And I ain't afraid to tell you that it can cause your performance to be less. I ain't afraid to tell you that it has impacts. And let me tell you what I really ain't afraid to tell you. Many folk who smoke it to disconnect from the reality of life and to disconnect from people. Oppressed people don't need a reason to disconnect from life. I'm going to say it again. Oppressed people don't need a reason to disengage from life. When I think about the fight for equity, and when I think about the fight for social justice, and when I think about the fight for equity in healthcare, and the fight for equity in education, and the fight for equity in economics, and the fight for equity amongst black people, I don't need you to disengage. I don't need you to separate. I need you to have all your faculties, have it all together, because we in a fight, and the fight we in requires the 8 points of the IQ that you might be missing out on. And let me go on and really get in trouble. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's good for us. I'ma go on and really get in trouble. I saw the video that went viral that talked about pastors investing in it and talked about churches investing in it. Porn been legal for years, and I ain't seen a church start a porn magazine. Liquor been legal for years, and I ain't seen a church start a bar. Oh, I know you can teach black people economic principles. I could have taught you that before cannabis was here. I know you could teach people how to farm. We could have did that with potatoes. We didn't need to do it with cannabis. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to argue is that real love is courageous enough to take a position that's different from the rest of the culture, to take a position that says, I want us to do better. Go ahead, smoke it if you want to smoke it, but realize it does have effects, and realize that we are in a fight. Maybe we ought to wait till we win the fight to roll up one. Real love is courageous. Real love is candid. And real love is demonstrated even through sacrifice. But can I tell you what the real shout is? Because I just told you that when Jesus came, he showed you his love in all of those ways. Truth of the matter is, when Jesus came, he showed you love through his sacrifice, and he showed you love through his candor, and he showed you love through his courage. It was courage when he stood in front of Pilate. It was courage when they asked him. He was in trouble for saying that he was a king. He was in trouble for saying that he was a king. And when they brought him in front of Pilate, they asked him, are you the king? Jesus makes a clear statement. He says, I'm the king of not this world. This kingdom is not my world. In other words, what he was saying is, I'm not called to do it your way. I'm not called to do it the way of culture. I'm not called to let culture define me. I'm not called to let legalities define me. I'm called to be different. And here it is. I'm going to walk different. I'm going to talk different. I'm going to show somebody a different way. I'm going to show somebody that you can live a life of meaning. I'm going to show somebody that even when society is against you, you can have victory. I'm going to show somebody that through it all, you can do things in me. I'm going to show you that I'm able to do exceeding abundance above all you could ever ask or think. I'm going to show you, you don't need to disconnect from people. You don't need to disconnect from reality. Just connect to me and watch me do it. We don't have to do it the way culture tells us to do it. We don't have to do it the way the law tells us to do it. I'm willing to die for this thing. I'm willing to die to show show you a different way. And here's the real shout. Even though he died, the affirmation that he did it the right way was early Sunday morning when he got up with all power in his hands, which means what God was showing is that I affirm your way of doing it. If I wanted the law to win, I would have affirmed the law and kept you in the grave. If I wanted culture to win, I would have affirmed culture and kept you in the grave. But me, I picked you up. I got you out the grave, which means my affirmation is not in the land. My affirmation is not in what people think should be done. My affirmation is only in this. My affirmation is in the fact that when you choose me, when you make me Lord over your life, when you let me direct your path, I'll affirm you and I'll pick you up through some mess and I'll get you out of the grave. Is there anybody here that can celebrate real love? Well, all I tried to argue is that your love ought to be committed even through sacrifice, and your love ought to be courageous, and your love ought to be candid. If you ain't courageous, if you ain't got no candor, and if you ain't committed through sacrifice, you better ask, do you really have love? But is there anybody here that can celebrate the commitment of the God who loved you in spite of you, and the God who sacrificed in spite of you? Is there anybody here who can celebrate the love and the candor that he gave when every day he asked me, do you want to be made new? Do you want to be whole again? Do you want to go to new levels? Is there anybody here that can celebrate the love shown through his courage, that he died for me, that he got up early Sunday morning for me, and all I've tried to argue is that I got to show his love to the folk around me. I got to be courageous. I got to sacrifice, and I have to have candor. Teach me how to love. Listen, all I'm trying to argue is that we ought to constantly think about, does my life reflect Jesus, or does my life reflect culture? Do I love people the way Jesus loved people, or do I love people the way I think they want to be loved? Do I love people enough to push them? I ain't trying to fight no other pastor, fight no other church. I just love you enough as your pastor to make sure y'all know my position. I don't care if it go viral. I want it to go viral in here. Because at the end of the day, real love pushes people to new levels. Real love doesn't allow you to be comfortable. Real love doesn't allow you to stay in the same place. Real love is willing to challenge people. And we have to get to a place where we see that as a demonstration of love. Not as somebody trying to hurt me. Not as somebody trying to disrespect me. But I love you, and I'm grateful that you love me enough to tell me the truth. Grateful that you love me enough to not let this keep me in a sick situation. That's the kind of love God shows you. And as we stand to our feet, that's the kind of love that ought to excite you. Knowing that God loves you so much, that he constantly finds a way to make himself available to you. That he constantly stands with open arms ready to receive you. God loves you so much. The problem with the church is that we have preached this salvation thing as a get out of fire, get out of hell card. And we preached it as, don't do this. Instead of preaching it the way God preaches it, which is, I love you. I love you too much to let you go out like this. God wants you to experience amazing love. Listen, we're bowing our heads and we're praying. Lord, thank you for your love. Thank you, God, for access to you. And thank you, God, for the opportunity to be used by you and the opportunity to be in relationship with you. I want that for my life. And I'm choosing you. In Jesus' name, amen. Listen, we're changing the way you engage with us here at this church. We're no longer going to do the text saved or text join. All you got to do is text us your name. Text us your name to 856-757-0440. If you text us your name, we're going to give you more information. We're going to pray with you. We're going to find out how it is we can be a resource to you. We're going to find out how it is we can bless you. We're going to move this thing away from just trying to get you to be a member and instead start having relationship with you. All you got to do is text your name to 856-757-0440, and somebody's going to begin representing God's love in your life. 856-757-0440.